ahead and reveal.
Plus, I switched bows. Should have met that lighter sound effect.
Sit your ass down, son. Let's get talking. Talking about stuff. Here we go.
Talking about our new energy drink sponsor.
Yeah.
Future sponsor, maybe.
Oh, let's hope. That'd be so cool.
We like Jocko, right?
Jocko's an awesome dude. It's hard not to like Jocko. It really is.
I like things made in America.
Yeah, America's good. It smells like freedom.
This is an official Jocko Go review to start the podcast. It's really the big deal of this podcast. So, did you look at the ingredient list?
I had not, and I probably should have looked at it before I twisted this thing. Let's take a look here. Ooh, the light
It's a nice
reflection's
can.
killing me. It is a glorious looking can.
It says it's nootropic, so that should make us smarter while we
Water.
do this podcast.
Natural flavors, citric acid to preserve freshness.
Have you ever seen a
Monk
smaller
fruit.
ingredient list, though?
In an energy drink, no, I don't think I have. It's
Yeah,
a tiny
exactly. That's
little.
what I'm
There's
saying.
like 3 lines.
And he even has this,
Fermented
look at
sugar
this,
cane.
dude. Look at this marketing. It says scan for top secret information.
Ah,
Dang,
that's
boy.
pretty dope.
Dang, boy. Who's doing his marketing? We need them doing our podcast marketing.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Dude, the guys and gals and people, podcast listeners, they showed up for our little subscribe for Christmas ask.
Oh yeah, we hit 5,000 before Christmas.
Yeah, no, our growth is up like 30% month over month or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people are listening,
That's a good trend.
clicking buttons. Yeah,
We officially have 100 reviews on Spotify. I checked today.
yeah,
We're at
it's a
100.
big deal. Thank you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that-
That's
that
triple
stuff does help.
digits. Triple digits in a short period of time.
Triple digits.
Yeah.
Do we get like a WWE belt for that?
No, I don't think we've quite earned a belt just yet.
I
but
thought
that'd
you
be
make a
cool.
belt for everything.
No, I didn't even make that belt. That was Brandon. I did take
Yeah.
that on the hunt though, just to rub it in his face a little bit.
Yeah. Who's got the better beard right now?
Oh, I do.
You do?
Yes.
I feel like it wasn't even a contest. Do you think you do? Well, if you guys get to watch this,
I think my
let us know who do you think has the.
I think my face complements it a little better than yours. You're
Really?
not like yours looks bad. I don't think it does, but I think
Just
my
think you're
face.
naturally a beard guy.
I think I'm naturally a beard guy. Yeah.
Well,
and
I
it was
could use
denied for me a long time in my married days.
I could use a barber in my life. I've been barber free for about 5 or 6 months, letting everything grow.
Yeah, how far are we letting that go?
I don't know. I just said I want to grow the flow once in my lifetime, and that's what I'm doing right now.
So where is the end of the flow, though? I mean, how far?
I
Is
don't
there a
know.
line? Would you draw it? Would it be like you're gonna let it get
I think
past
I'm
your ass
past
or
the
what?
bad part now because
Yes.
the bad part was like it's touching my ears. I had to figure out to like what to do with it in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole thing. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the longest you let your hair get?
I have pictures when I was in high school with my hair down to about here.
Yeah, I've never been
And
there.
it was-
never even been close.
A weird cut because it was like shaved across here, so it was only the top that was that long. I think that was somewhat mildly popular at that point in
Yeah.
history. But yeah, I think it got about this long, and I decided to cut it after that.
Listening to rock and roll, long hair.
Grunge,
Yeah.
very much what they called grunge, which I think they call alternative rock now.
This
But grunge.
this hair is definitely it's like PR for me, longest it's ever been. Do you know what PR stands for?
Personal record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what else is a PR?
Mm.
The 291 I shot yesterday
Yeah.
with a hot button. 14X.
Hot buttons are a dangerous path.
I know,
my
it feels
friend.
very slippery.
It feels so good,
It feels very slippery.
and then you start slamming
Everyone
it.
says the same thing, like you'll shoot it the best you ever have for a short amount of time, and then it's a
you'll-
very slippery
Then all of
road.
a sudden, target panic sinks in, and you're like, ah, whack, ah, whack.
Yeah. But it was interesting. In my head, I thought my best was 293 or 294. So I walked out of the shop, and Michael's like, wasn't that your best? I was like, no, I was a couple points shy, but I felt like I shot pretty good. It was actually the first time I shot a whole round without an 8. So that's what I was most happy about. Full round of Vegas without an 8 on the scorecard. And then I looked back through my photos, and yeah, it was my best. So, And I think I was able to identify my poor shots were definitely from me pulling out of my peep a little bit.
Yeah. Do you know which way?
Which way they were hitting, which way I was pulling
Which
out
way
of my
you were
peep?
pulling out?
I don't.
See, that's irresponsible pull out there, Tim. You should
Yeah.
at least be aware of which way you're pulling out.
That's true. Is there a best practice for fixing that?
Yeah, figure out which way you're pulling out and move your peep that direction a little bit.
Okay, up or down?
So if you're pulling out high, move your peep up a tiny bit. Because what that usually means is that your true natural head position is slightly off.
Yeah, I feel like I do like lean my head into the string a touch, which is probably an old habit from shooting like a shorter axle bow or something.
Sure.
But if I did lean my head into the string to make my peep work, would my head coming back, then my peep go up?
Peep
or
would
down?
need to go up.
That's kind of what I thought too.
Yeah. So but if you're coming out of your peep and that's where your misses are coming from, you should see the misses be consistent. So when you get to a point that you have less misses than makes, you should start categorizing where the misses are. Like graph it. Like where is this going? That's important.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the photo real quick just for reference while we're talking about this.
Sure.
Guys, if you haven't considered shooting Vegas spaces this winter at your local archery shop, please do. One, it should be fun. You should have a chance to kick it after work and hang out and talk shit. And two, it should have some real quantified practice under pressure. And I don't know. I feel like that's the lab. Like there's not a better lab.
There's not a better foundational starting point for improvement. Like you're working on yourself 100%.
Yeah.
Like there's no other variables in the equation, and that's what really gets your form down. Like your ability to know when you're coming out of your peep and when you're not. That's largely established from that because everything else stays the same. So when something feels weird or something feels different, you're aware of it, and then you can focus on it, and then you're aware of it when you are in situations where things are variable because you've learned it as a habit. So yeah, target is where most people truly get better. Shooting 3D is fun. It doesn't necessarily make you better.
I agree.
Shooting distances is fun. It doesn't necessarily make you better. I think it does to a degree because it's forcing you to focus on your form in the same respect because you amplified how far away things are. But 20 yards indoors, stale environment, it's hard to beat what that does for you.
Yeah, if I was solely looking at return on time as far as where I've been and where I'm going, shooting 20 yards gives me the greatest return on my time.
100%. For true improvement, I agree 100%.
And I'm guilty of not spending more time blank bailing, but I hear many people like yourself talk about the importance of blank bailing. And if you're a person who can't get to like a 20-yard range, blank bailing, basically just shooting a target, right?
There's a lot of really high end archers that spend a shit ton of time blank bailing. Like more time blank bailing than shooting at a target.
Now,
The process of blank bailing is running through your shot without a point of aim. So you eliminate the aiming out of the equation. You can do the same by taking the sight off your bow, but then the sight's not on your bow to reference and force yourself to get used to. But by taking away the definite point of aim, you really feel what's going on. You've eliminated the variables that you're constantly working through. So it really, really forces you to work on form. If you think shooting a Vegas face forces you to work on form, blind bailing really makes you work on form because it's all about feel.
yeah. And now, if you were to blank bail a little bit, would you just pick out like one or two fundamentals at a time to sort through?
I'd usually pick one thing a day to work on.
Yeah. That's
And focus on
typically what
this
I would
part.
recommend for a person practicing in golf too, is focus on the one thing that's the most important. And that's what can be hard to do, is prioritize what's most important. I think that's where our coach can be very valuable, is they can say, hey, here, they can help you, guide you, like, hey, this is what's most important. Because I think anybody that can develop a little bit of an eye and say, hey, maybe they watch some good shooters shoot, they can pick out what they got going on. But then how do you sort through what's most important first? And like, what's the first domino? What's the next domino? What's the domino that's going to knock over the next 5 dominoes?
Right.
Right. So that's where I think it could be important to work with a good eye or whatever, someone to help guide that process.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, blank bailing, Vegas, all good stuff. 2024 is here. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is 2024, isn't it? Yeah.
2024, we're past, this is previous to 2024, but this podcast is going to come out in 2024 because we took 2 weeks off, scheduled the end of the year to shut the mill down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some much deserved R&R.
Yeah. I think it's important to shut the mill down, man. Like, when else do you do maintenance and repair? You know what I mean? And people don't think about it particularly in other aspects, but I think a little bit of downtime can be really important to increase your efficiency on the uptime.
Well, I agree. It gives you an opportunity to reflect without having to feel like there's something you need to do.
Yep.
That's always a good thing to do, is just unplug for a little bit, and you'll get better inspiration.
Yeah.
Going forward. It's a wise decision. It's like taking a vacation.
Yeah. And the trick is, when you're ready to go back to work, you check in and you're present and you're ready to be there, 100%.
Right.
And, yeah. So 2024 is here. What are you excited about?
I am excited to see how crazy this Matthews sales rush ends up. Knowing what their lead times have turned into and how bad the backlog is and how much bows we're going to have, I'm really anxious to see how many people start traveling, especially with the promotion that I'm running. I'm going to be giving $100 off of accessories to anybody who drives more than 5 hours or flies here to buy a bow. Just got to show me your ID so I know where you came from, or like a plane ticket stub or some voucher that you flew to get here. And that's my way of trying to make it a little more cost effective for you to travel, because I know the people that are really looking into the lifts, especially, are going to have a hard time finding them, and I'm going to have a ton of them. So I'm kind of excited to see if that works. I believe it will, but we'll see. So that's probably the thing I'm most antsy about, largely because I stuck my neck out pretty hard. I've never ordered 400 bows before the first of the year of any brand ever in my life. I don't even think I've ordered 300 bows of any brand ever before the first of the year. But the response has been so crazy. I mean, we're selling 3 every day, right? Well, that's a lot. Over time, you multiply that by a year, and that's a ton of bows. So, and I know that I'll spend the money. I'll hang my neck out to always keep inventory. So, if you are listening to this and you decide that's something you want to do, make sure you call the shop and verify the config of what you're looking for, because the one gray area we're having here is modules. Like, I should have the color you want, I should have the spec you want without any kind of an issue because of the quantities that I'm doing, but I'd still verify it 100%. But the biggest issue is going to be modules. And if I know you're coming and I know it far enough ahead, I can pretty much guarantee the right module, and I can allocate and make sure that I've got them coming from the manufacturer if I have a little bit of notice. So if you're interested in doing that, make sure to coordinate with the pro shop. Call Spokane Valley Archery and ask for the pro shop and tell them what you're wanting to do so you can be prepared for it and make sure we've got what you want. Stick it aside with your name on it. You're not committed to it but if you know what you want ahead of time and you're pretty sure that's what you want, I'd like to hold it aside just to make sure you don't show up without that opportunity. Doesn't mean that you can't come in, try out 5 bows and pick a different one. I don't care. I just want to ensure that if you think you want something specific, that we have it sitting aside for you when you come, if you're going to make the trip.
Yeah. Yeah, it's become more and more popular that this is becoming more of a destination for people to get to, which is cool because we do live in an area that's not, who else has that many bows or whatever,
I would, at this point, I would say Lancaster probably has more bows. But other than that, I don't think there is anybody who has any more bows. So, and we're so far apart too. There's a whole country in between us.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I've understood the launch more and understood the products more, this does feel like a leap year. Where
it is. It's drastic.
It's more than 1 year of innovation. It's a couple years of innovation. And
well, if you remember right, I called this last year. I said nobody really did a lot, so it's probably going to be a big jump next year.
Time for a new chassis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I remember talking about that.
The entire industry kind of knew it was going to be a down year because you weren't going to be able to do what we've done the last 2 years prior. COVID just really changed the number of people that were interested in an outdoor hobby like that, and you'll never duplicate that. So it's likely to, or it's logical to not, throw a whole bunch of new tech out on a year that is already going to be a decline. So most of them swung for the fence. They all did a lot. Like they really, well, not all, but most of them did a lot. Like they really did. They like the big brands that made some very large changes. And it's just it's unfortunate because let's take Hoyt for example.
Take what for example?
Take Hoyt for example.
Okay. Yeah.
Hoyt machined a crap load of stuff out of their riser. They put a wider limb set on their bow. They redesigned their cam. They did a whole bunch of stuff, which is a full redo. You redesign, you widen your limb set. That means you redesign your limb pocket, right? I mean, there's a lot of work gone into what Hoyt did. And if the Hoyt would have done that last year, they probably would have crushed it. But because they did it this year, that might be kind of tricky. You think you can get that one in there? Because they did it this year and Matthews did it this year, it's going to be a harder sell. It really is. It's going to be a little more complicated. Any other year, it would have been like, wow, look at what Hoyt did. But because Matthews did basically the same thing and ended up lighter overall by like a quarter of a pound, it's kind of like, oh, okay. It's just so unfortunate. Like it would have been very easy to do that any other year and just crush, and Matthews just kind of took the wind out of everybody's sails.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take my word for that. Call each manufacturer and ask them what their lead time is. And most of them are 3 weeks, and Matthews is like 6 months.
You brought two kind of good post points we've talked about on here. We talked about how much more machining is done out of the Matthews riser. Mm-hmm. And it's considerably more, maybe twice as many cuts. I had a guy reach out who is from the machining fabrication world, and he said CNC machines have gotten way better in the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And he said even though there's that many more dimensional cuts, that because their CNC machines are better, it's probably even close to the same amount of time. It's not double the amount of time, which I thought was interesting to hear, that I didn't know CNC machines have evolved that much.
Well, it's let's rephrase that. It's double the amount of time if you were already using that machine.
Yes.
And they were already using that machine. So
Yeah.
whatever his statement is would be based off of if they were using an older machine versus a newer machine. They already were using those machines. So yes, it did excessively increase the cut time.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because they were using that machine last year. They just weren't cutting that much meat out of it. They've bought all these machines early COVID. Like they saw their volume going up, and unlike most manufacturers, they stuck their neck out. They went, okay, we're going to buy a whole bunch of new machinery and figure out how to run this stuff faster.
Yeah.
And so there is more. I don't know if it's double. Maybe that's not accurate, but I can tell you it's definitely a lot more because they were already using those machines.
Yeah. Yeah. In his message, he was saying probably 10 or 20%, but I don't know what that estimation was based on. Anyway, I thought that was interesting to hear that CNC machines have come a long way, as innovation does.
Well, sure.
But I just haven't spent any time around manufacturing as a whole. Another interesting point that was brought up through our, what would you call it, the interwebs, the people that get to reach out was...
The keyboard cowboys.
Yeah. No, but we have good keyboard.
We do.
Good keyboard
Hey,
cowboys.
I like cowboys.
I learn a lot.
I like cowboys.
Yeah, I learn a lot from these guys and gals, mostly guys. But he was asking about, hey, why don't you guys elaborate on the impact of like a total archery challenge as far as it goes to archery and hunting? He's like, I go shoot, and he's like, in his extended friend group, he's like, there's 10 or 12 of us that shoot nearly year round for total archery challenge, and only 1 or 2 of them hunt. I thought that was really cool to hear that is becoming a reason people get bows in their hands.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's...
You think about that. You have a friend group near Salt Lake City, near Denver or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's something you can put on the calendar and make an event out of and have a reason to shoot your bow nearly year round.
Well, for sure. No, and that's really nice to hear that's an aspect of that's being embraced.
That's what I thought too.
And it's largely probably being embraced because it's being... What's the word? It's being sold as a fun event. It's not for score, and it's challenging because it's intended to be hard.
Yep.
Right? And that's what, for the longest time, I thought would really grow the sport the most. Is like you get when it comes down to competitive stuff like target archery, per se, it's 1 out of 50 archers or 1 out of 100 archers are really interested in heavily competitive, right? And a large percentage of them want to play, but they're intimidated, right? Because it's keeping score and it's putting your name and your score up in the public vision for everyone to see how bad you did, right? And I always thought that if somebody like embraced this philosophy, like it would do really well, and it has. It is the most participated in thing.
It's flourished
in archery, right? And that's not an accident. It's why aren't more people paying attention to that? Mm-hmm. Like anytime a new shooting thing comes up, it's all about score. It's all about score and competitive. And I'm like, dude, wake up. People want to play. People want to have fun. People want to go out and hang out with their buddies and have a couple beers afterwards and go camping or what have you. Even if it's you got to stay at a hotel or a resort, they just want to go have a good time and have a fun weekend, and possibly interact with some of the people in their industry that they like to participate in. And it's smart, and I wish there was way more of them, and I wish there was more functional things that were based on just having a good time instead of got to win. Don't get me wrong, I'm competitive. I'm probably one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. I hate to lose. But I love the fact that a facet of this sport has been geared strictly on having a good time. And it's what we need. Yeah. Like, if you want to get more people into the sport, don't make it intimidating.
Yeah, make it less intimidating, lower the barrier to entry, and make it fun, make it an event, make it an experience. And that's all these things have done. I have a whole host of ideas of videos I want to do that are more like fun based for next year. And a lot of them are just circled back from the framework of golf. Like a lot of golf is like golf and archery are like the two sports, pickleball too, like things middle-aged men can do and feel like they're an athlete or whatever, or feel like they're getting this competitive fire, but it's, they can still do it. And
I'm sorry, I keep going back to this clip I saw when a guy gets into pickleball, and I'm trying to remember it. And this guy comes back like a week later. He's got like 4 paddles, and he comes back a month later, and he's like fully decked out and kicking people off the court and whatnot. And it just made me think of you when you said pickleball. Sorry.
That's basically me. That's Joel Turner.
Yeah.
That's Dan Staten.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
I honestly, I probably ought to go and let you beat up on me a little bit so I can get humbled and then get pissed.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. And it's just a fun way to go talk crap with the guys. Archery is that as well. Golf is that as well. So I see a lot of parallels, and I just have a lot of ideas for things I want to do. Making videos that are fun and, get to scratch a little of that competitive itch, but largely fun.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to our Jocko Go review. Do you want to rate this out of 5 stars or 10? Scale of 5 or 10?
What do you think? Should we go 10?
I like the scale of 5.
5. All right, 5. Got it.
But you can also use point something if you need to.
This is really good. Like I'm trying to find something, to complain about.
It's not ultra sweet.
No, it's not ultra sweet, but it's not bitter. It doesn't have a weird aftertaste, which a lot of them do.
It's not.
I don't feel jittery.
Yeah, it's not super lemon limey. It's just it's like a
no,
soft lemon lime.
This is at least a 4.
95 milligrams of caffeine, so it's kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
Which is nice for us this time of night. If it was 10 a.m. in the morning, maybe more caffeine, but for this time of night, it's nice not to be get too wired up.
I'd say I'd give this at least a 4, 4.5. I mean, I hate to give out a 5, because I want to feel like I'm being critical.
Yeah. Yeah, the inner reviewer makes it hard to give away a 5.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm a little bit of an energy drink connoisseur. I've drank a lot of them. And I always look to the ingredient list because I wonder what's in them. And
that is a short list, man.
I wonder. It just says other ingredients. So it makes me wonder, are there ingredients that aren't mentioned? But under the other ingredients, it's 1, 2, 3. I'll just read them out loud. Filtered carbonated water, natural flavors, citric acid, monk fruit extract, fermented sugar cane. So that's 5 ingredients. So I feel good about that.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll give it.
I don't know who's making them for him or whatnot, but that's really pretty impressive.
Yeah.
What are you going to give it?
I'd be right up there, man. I'd be like 4.3, 4.4. I don't know what a 5 is, but as far as like a relatively healthy energy drink, this is top of the scale.
Yeah.
No, and there's other flavors and stuff, but lemon lime's a classic.
Yeah, well, lemon lime's good, and I'm sure there might be one you like better or whatnot, but it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess another interesting thing to point on, since it's 2024, I'm an Idaho resident, or I'm living in Idaho now, and applying for doing my 6 months to get my lifetime hunting and fishing license as a resident of Idaho. So I'm officially a spud, no longer an apple maggot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the great Idaho migration.
Part of the great Idaho migration, and it is quite a migration. There are a lot of people moved over there for whatever reasons you can probably figure out.
Yeah. A lot of people are moving there because they align with Idaho's government style.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Idaho's a pretty conservative state. They're pro-gun ownership. It's just a pretty conservative state, you know?
Yeah.
What would you tack onto that?
They definitely don't believe in big government.
Really easy to carry a gun.
Yeah, they're very loose on their gun laws. Like you can carry an AR strapped on the side of you downtown Coeur d'Alene if you want. Which at one point when they had all those protests and guys coming in and just smashing buildings and whatnot, there was some kind of threat that they were coming to Coeur d'Alene, and the locals just all strapped up ARs, started walking around town. Ooh, nobody ever threw a brick. Imagine that.
Coeur d'Alene also, I think the city of Coeur d'Alene, or I don't know who the issuing body was, but somebody issued a public statement that said, hey, you guys are welcome to peacefully protest, but no otherwise our citizens will be armed.
Yeah, and they didn't come.
Surprise, surprise.
Imagine that. How does that stuff always get us overlooked?
Yeah.
You know, anything that was actually positive for somebody having possession of a gun never gets talked about.
Yeah.
It's like, one might think they had an agenda.
Things that make you go,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love Idaho, though.
No.
And,
no, it's great.
Yeah. As it sits, I'll be looking to purchase over there.
Yeah.
I'll make the migration, too.
Yeah.
Now, my business is in Washington, and it will continue to be. Washington's been a great...
So mine for now.
Yeah, Washington's been a great home base for my business. And frankly, it's been a great state to live in. But, you know, there are parts of Washington that would have been pretty scary to live in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to get too into the weeds on that. But, yeah, pros and cons.
Always pros and cons. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Dan's new camera guy he bought a house over here, and I asked him why he didn't buy a house in Idaho. He said because the same house was $100,000 more.
Yeah. The demand is considerably
is considerably that much higher that you're going to pay $100,000 more for basically the same house, 20 minutes apart.
Yep.
Just happens to be across a different line. Mm-hmm. That's saying something.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pay that tax.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what's it worth to you, right?
Can't put a price on happiness.
You
is
can't
what I would say.
And you can't. And freedom isn't free.
Yeah.
There's a cost.
Yeah.
No matter what, and that cost might be $100,000 difference in a house.
Yeah, I haven't got to open it yet, but my realtor just forwarded me a piece of information that said the interest rates are going to come back down a lot sharper than what we had anticipated.
I heard that like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
Like they're going to drop it like a rock.
Yeah. I had predicted that a little bit just because next year's going to be an election year.
Yeah, we got to fix something.
And how poor would that look going into an election with really high interest rates? And, you know,
Sure.
Yeah.
Gas is going to magically plummet.
Yeah.
Government's doesn't got nothing to do with that, huh?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that funny? It's wild. But it happens. Every cycle it happens, man. Every 4 years. Now, not necessarily the interest rates. I think over the last like 8 or, ever since the crash of 2008, it seems like interest rates just stayed low no matter what. Like they just never raised them. Mm-hmm. But the fuel prices always go down $1 to $1.50 a gallon in an election year.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there saying that it's the fuel companies and it's the greedy oil producers. Well, how in the hell is it dropping in an election year if it's the greedy oil producers? If the government doesn't have something to do with it?
Just a sweet coincidence, huh?
Yeah, every 4 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a crock of shit is what it is.
Yeah, so I'm switching bows.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. That video is live today, same day as this. And I'm going to swap over to Old Faithful Bowtech.
Well, I can't say I'm shocked on that one. There's a lot of positive things for the average guy in that bow. It really is.
Yeah.
But what was your biggest indicators or factor in your decision there?
My biggest driving force was I'd spent the year shooting the Reckoning Gen 2. So I was very familiar with the technology that they launched on the Core SS and the Core SR. And after I've thought a little more about it, I wish they would have done all the same things with the cam, with the draw weight adjustability and the ability to even flip those pegs back and forth, draw stops.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a neat thing that I didn't know was a neat thing until this year. So I wish they would have went 100% with all those things that they did to their target bow, to the hunting bow, because there are a lot of neat features that you could tinker with. But there was enough of the carryover that I just wanted to have those features in a hunting bow. And the highlights of them is basically you can move your cams left and right without a press. Mm-hmm. So it makes it very easy to tune. Is there easier bow to tune?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No, there are some that aren't very bad, but there isn't an easier one. It is the fastest thing to tune.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of on my Reckoning Gen 2 this year, I've slapped it down on the counter 3 or 4 times because I changed arrows or, changed something. And then I was able to just move the wheels, get my paper tear right, not have to harass you guys too much behind the counter. And that's just really nice. That's a really nice thing to be able to do. And the timing thing, right? You can adjust the timing right at the cam.
It would prevent you from having to go get to a bow press if your bow gets a little out of time. It's not gonna alleviate you from getting the thing timed to begin with.
Yep.
But once it's been timed, you're probably not going to experience enough string stretch or serving separation to not be able to fix it without that.
The timing screw is kind of like a micro, right?
It is.
Not a macro.
It is, but it's enough you could still, like if you were out of twist, you could still fix it. Unless you were already buried the wrong direction.
Yeah. And then being able to kick the grip out is kind of freaking nice. Like, I don't know why, but I've gravitated more towards kicking the grip out, shooting a little more high-wristed. It just, to me, it seems like a lot of my torque pressure will come more from my heel. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to shoot a little higher wristed. It feels like I can do less. It feels like I can do less wrong with the bow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's not necessarily a thing that, you would say there's not like a right or a wrong way to grip it as far as how much you want that grip kicked out. Mm-hmm. But it's a nice thing to be able to kick out. And the thing that, as I shot them all side by side, I was continually impressed by was it's 31.5-inch bow, but it felt right there with the 33s. I didn't feel like I was holding a squirrely riser. I didn't feel like the riser had a lot more laterals going on. It felt like it was in the same group as the rest of the bows, which I think is something to be said about that.
Bowtechs, when they're running a moderate parallel like that bow is, has a hell of a long riser. Like it's probably 31.5-inch riser to boot, much like a Matthews runs a really long riser on their platform. So you get greater stability on a shorter bow. It doesn't feel short, and that's a really big plus. And Bowtech did a lot this year. They really did. I mean, like I said, most of the major manufacturers did a lot. The one thing they didn't address, which I really wish they would have, was trying to get the weight down. They didn't cut any extra meat out of the riser. They didn't try to, make it more excessive machining. And that part's unfortunate because they probably would have stood out a lot better with some of the other things, because they have a couple of things that only they can bring to the table currently, which is their wheel lean adjustability and their timing. They're the only one that actually has those features that are both patented to them. So it's unfortunate that they didn't try to get the weight down a little bit. If they just would have got the weight down a little bit on that bow, I think they would have really taken a good chunk of the market. But because Hoyt and Matthews both really addressed the weight of their product, then you're going to pick it up and try it, and it's going to be like, well, yeah, but it's a quarter pound heavier. But outside of that, I mean, I love that bow. I shot that Solution SS 2 years prior, and it's the predecessor to that bow. And man, for a tree stand ground blind hunting for a 30-inch draw length guy or 30.5-inch draw length guy like I am, it is an incredibly good shooting bow. Like, you will not be disappointed. That bow is awesome. It really is.
And I'm just thinking, my North Star for this bow is a true hunting bow. Kind of the line I've tried to dance the last couple of years is like hunting bow / 3D bow, right? Hunting bow, but also the longest, most forgiving 3D bow I could shoot. And this year, it's like, I have a target bow, so I just want this to be a straight up hunting bow. So being shorter, being a little more nimble, like those things don't bother me. It'll strap onto my backpack better. It'll pack better. It'll maneuver better. It'll maneuver better in ground blinds. And those are good things for a hunting bow.
Yeah, no, if this year taught me anything, because I hadn't really done a ton of tree stand hunting. Most of my even elevated hunting was always been from a blind where you have a lot of room and it's pretty easy to maneuver. If there's one thing I really learned this year is that type of hunting is really beneficial to have a shorter bow. Like, it really is. So I totally understand why the shorter axle to axle bows are so popular in sales. I truly get it, even in longer draw lengths. That being said, I still try to avoid shooting bows that max out at your draw length. Even though I built a lift 29.5 and shooting a bow that's maxed out at my draw length. So there's that issue, but it still shot really well. But ideally, I try not to do that. But that overall dimension is so much more convenient in that environment. And if you're going to do some tree stand hunting, especially rut tree stand hunting, you're going to have to move really quick and try to get a shot off in an awkward angle. A 4-inch shorter bow is a lot easier to do it with.
Yeah, I think that 29.5 is going to be a dream bow for a lot of people with that sub 30-inch draw length, or even people that want to max it out and just have a compact bow, because it's like that's the model that Matthews designed this year.
Yes.
That is like their flagship bow. It's the fastest, it's the lightest, and it's freaking stable for that length.
Well, and let's not get it twisted here. 80% of bows are purchased with the intent of shooting out of a tree stand at a white-tailed deer.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So that's what they're always going to market towards, because it's the majority.
Yep.
Right. So and I just crushed it. But I mean, Hoyt makes a 30-inch axle to axle bow that's real nice. That Bowtech at 31 is still a hell of a good shooter and just amazingly good feeling.
Yep.
Like, there's just a lot of good there, and you're not going to go wrong with any one of those brands.
No,
you're really not. They're making really good products.
I thought it was incredibly difficult to even, I shouldn't say to eliminate one. One was easy to eliminate, and then the rest of them, you could have made an argument for any of them.
Yeah. I mean, your top, would you start with 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, and your top 5, pretty easy to argue why. Like, there's positives and negatives to each one. You can sit here and pick what is more important to you as far as your positives, and that's the bow you're going to end up with. It's such a great year.
Yeah, I agree.
And a hard year, all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
It can be difficult. Like, if you're trying to make the decision and decipher, and you can figure out, hey, what is my utility? What features are important to me? That can help you guide that selection process, I think, and narrow it down. But if you're going in without any criteria and any brand loyalty, you could walk out with one of 6 bows.
For sure.
With no problem.
For sure, which is kind of why I put the caveat in there of you can pick out what bow you want if you're going to travel, but you don't have to buy that one.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that the thing that you intend to buy is available, because there's a good possibility you won't. Like, that's another really unique thing about us is we have like 7 or 8 brands and quantity in one place. So you can actually really try stuff. Like, you don't have to go to 4 different stores to try it.
Yeah.
Like, they're all in one spot. So
now,
it's a huge plus.
We've given a lot of airtime to the flagship stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been exciting. I mean, flagship stuff is exciting. But talk to me about the mid-range bows. I'm a little less educated on them. What mid-range bows are exciting this year? And by the way, I am going to get educated on mid-range bows and do stuff with them, because I want to understand them, and I want to see if I can push these more budget type build bows, how far I can push them.
Well, and there's not a lot of talk about it, and that's really a problem.
That's a
It's
problem,
something something we've addressed and discussed a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm going to try to do a better job of actually functionally testing. Yeah, if you just open it up a little bit, it'll probably get going. Yeah. So I'm gonna make more of an effort to actually test other price point bows, and there's a lot of unique things out there. Bear always does a really good job of offering some more effective functional prices and options for the average consumer. Diamond is always really hard to beat on the entry level stuff. There's a lot to do. I do have I want to say it's a 320 Pro or something video that I haven't finished editing yet that I'll put out. But one of the ones that really surprised me, and I don't know if it's going to be perceived odd or not, but Darton actually made a couple of really nice bows at a reasonable price point. It's not a huge company out there. I think largely their revenue stream is based off of patents because they have so many. Yeah. Like a lot of the technologies that are being used today, someone's paying Darton to use the tech. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of really good features for their bow products that a lot of times they don't even use their patents. Like they just make other stuff. But they came out with a couple that I was able to test fire when the rep came by to have me test the new flagship hunting bow that we published and put out. But he didn't have 70-pound ones yet, and he didn't want me to test them. He said, wait till we get 70s. And I want to say they just shipped them. So we should have some of those to play with. That one's really unique. There's a couple new good ones in the Bear line that I'm still waiting for to test. They always do a pretty good job, and PSC's usually got a bow or two decent in those price ranges. Comment down below on the bottom if the mid-range bows that we haven't mentioned or talked about that you think really hold water. And please, please, please don't tell me a 4-year-old model. It's got to be relatively current, folks. I mean, I'm not going to go back and test a 10 or 15-year-old bow. It's got to be something they're making today that they released within the last year or so, because I don't want to open that door. I'm already really way too busy. But I would love to have feedback from people of what bows they feel should be tested and should be relevant and included in this that we're working on. But those are some of the ones that have jumped out at me recently. Bowtech's got a couple of decent bows and decent price points as well, but they aren't new. They haven't released anything new in a little while in that price range. And the Hoyt stuff, I think, has gotten up to where it's really pretty pricey. Like, I don't know if I can call it a price point bow. Matthews has a line called Mission that they haven't changed.
Yeah.
And they're not changing this year, I don't think.
I think if you're calling it a mid-range bow, what would you call that? Under $1,000 MSRP?
Well, ideally, I'd like to call it something that you could really equip for under $1,000.
Yeah.
And I also I'd like to think that you should probably eliminate anything that's got that ridiculously large draw length and weight adjustability, because that's not really a performance bow. That's a kid's bow that happens to fit adults.
Yeah.
So, and what I mean by that is a lot of the bows that go from 13 to 30 inches or that kind of thing, and 10 pounds to 70 pounds all built into the bow. That's a growing kid's bow. That's not really an adult's bow, and that's not to offend the adults out there that choose to use those bows, because that is traditionally a bow manufacturer's most affordable bow. And if that's what you can afford and that's what's going to get you into the sport, by all means do it. Just realize you're losing a lot of efficiency for going to that product. And we'd like to really try to highlight some things that maybe retail for $500 to $600 before you equip it. So it's like a step above the most basic thing you can buy, but trying to get you some legit real performance. I am going to go through and test the big adjustable bows for speed too, so you have comparisons, like real numbers. Here's how fast this bow really shot. And then this other one that's like $150 more might be 10, 15 feet a second faster. You can't buy that speed back. You can't buy a part or a tool to add to a bow to get that extra 15 feet a second. So it's something you really shouldn't ignore out of the gate. And it's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but I just, I haven't had the time. But fortunately, life's changed a little bit to where I can have a little more time and put a little more into this. And it's definitely something that needs more focus.
Yeah.
Really
well, I think it's exciting. I had so much fun with that Bear Adapt little mini series I made throughout this year. Just like, I learned a lot about bows, how to rig them up, how to like push the performance of the bow without, changing the budget a ton. And I'm going to do more stuff with that because it's teaching me a lot. It's super fun. And things that make it easier to get into are good.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
The most important thing you can always do is just get started. Whatever bow that is, whatever arrows that are, if it's your old cousin's bow or whatever.
Absolutely.
I mean, hopefully it's a bow that fits you. That would be good.
That is easily the most important part.
Yeah.
Like easily. I'd rather have a bow that's like, let's say you have access to a flagship bow from 3 years ago, but you can't change the specs of it, versus an entry-level bow from 3 years ago. And the entry-level bow fits you, and the high-end bow doesn't. Take the entry-level bow.
Yeah.
It fitting you is more important than its performance by a long shot.
Yeah, because you develop
So don't try to make something fit you.
weird
That's bad.
shitting habits, drawing a bow that's too long or too heavy. I mean, how many people do you think today are just like overbowed? You know, they haven't
More
learned
than half.
Yeah, they haven't learned to draw a bow.
Yeah, they're shooting too much weight, and it's too long of a draw length. Like, and I don't know what that is. I think that's a male ego thing or something.
Yeah.
It's I'm gonna pull as much weight as I physically functionally can. It doesn't matter how it looks when I do it. And I know I'm probably 28 inches, but boy, I can fit into a 29. You know, I don't know if that's I don't know if it goes back to the height thing or the length of certain things thing or what. But Jesus, just shoot the right draw length, please. It's so much easier to be accurate when it fits you correctly. Like, it's so important. Don't gloss over those things.
And
Don't pass over those.
So much easier on your shoulders long term if you can draw a bow like this instead of like bicep drawing it and rolling it up or
Oh, for sure.
any of the kind of weird type draw stuff we see. And I mean, even say you're an adult male right now and you're like, you have a 70-pound bow, you're a bicep drawer. It's right now is December.
Right.
You could crank a bow down to 40 or 50 pounds and probably be back up to 70 pounds by February.
Yeah, if you work at it.
Yeah,
For sure.
if you work at it or whatever. The off season, if you're in the off season, is like a great time to reassess those things.
100%.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
You got to see what the top secret.
Yeah.
It's going to bring you to their mailing list, dude. Tell me what it is.
4-week challenge.
As we sit right here, you're scanning for top secret information.
Yeah, and then we're going to put it out on a public forum. Discipline equals freedom reset starts January 1st, 2024. Sign up now.
Oh, dang.
Your def reset warning order. This is not another New Year's program. Sign up. Yeah.
Yeah.
What to expect, the breakdown for each week we deliver. Interesting. It's like self-help stuff and motivational things. Weekly challenges and epic prizes.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
Way to go, Jocko. Way to get people motivated. Good job.
Have you met Jocko personally yet?
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually went to a dinner with him once. There's an event that they do called Echelon Front, and it's a group of guys that go around teaching
That's our leadership
training that Jocko's
segment of the
involved
business.
in. And that's my neighbor up at my property. He's one of the founding guys of that, Jason Gardner. Shout out to Jason. Hopefully he's listening. He invited me.
Is he into archery too? Jason?
Yeah. He went to Jocko got him with Dudley, and he went and visited Dudley, and Dudley built him a bow. And Dudley couldn't get it back down enough that he could pull it back yet because he was really new to archery and he's a smaller guy, and it was like kind of maxing everything out in the short direction. And I came over and looked at it and managed to back it down to where he could get it to shoot, and we worked on a couple of things, and he was trying to learn and get better at it. But in any event, he invited me up because they do an event up by me every year, up by my property up there at a ranch.
Yeah.
Up there. And actually, I wasn't expecting much. Showed up. I'd never been up the road that was up. I hadn't seen this ranch up there. Really cool spot. Beautiful, gorgeous views, neat area. And I ended up sitting down to eat a steak dinner, and Jocko sat down right next to me. Kind of intimidated. Watched him. We did a thing around a campfire later, and he was, playing guitar and singing and whatnot. And it was really neat. And then talked to him 2 other times at different things. But
Yeah.
really, really good dude. I like what that man's doing a lot.
Yeah, that's
Really
cool.
do.
I was able to briefly interact with him at Total Archery Challenge Big Sky maybe 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But he was cool. He was approachable. He didn't have his guard up.
Yeah.
It was nice. And yeah. All of our friends got the classic photo taken with Jocko where he's got his
Yeah.
hand up.
Yeah.
Signature pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that. Back to this Bowtech thing. So I don't know. I got a lot of ideas this year. Firstly, and you and I both kind of have been thinking about this, is hunting with an offset bar.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a new version of it coming out that it's not drastically different. I just thought we should probably build in a quick disconnect so it comes on and off easy, because it's kind of a pain to put it in your case. But it eliminates the need to have multiple bars on your bow, which helps reduce the weight. And there's been so many times where I had to take my sidebar off, like a lot, in most of my hunting incursions in the last year, when I was using a front bar and a side bar. And I was like, God, this is why I started making an offset bar to begin with, partially because it was such a pain in the butt.
I had to remind yourself.
I had to remind myself.
You've been doing it so long, you're reminding yourself of stuff you already know.
I know that putting a V-bar on and balancing everything out perfectly will make you shoot a little better, but it's also quite a burden and a hindrance to hunt with. Like it's a lot of work. And that whole offset bar with a single stabilizer gets you really close to a good feel without having to have a whole bunch of crap on your bow. And it's a lot easier to carry around. So I'm going back to that route with hunting bows. I'm not shooting a V-bar and a side bar anymore. I like that a lot of the manufacturers have incorporated that option into their riser to make it a little slicker, a little more streamlined. What's the word I'm exploring? Streamlined. Thank you. A more streamlined, a little more cleaner look.
Yeah.
And I think that's a neat feature, but it's still so much more weight when you're talking 2 stabilizers, 2 sets of weights, another bracket, as opposed to 1 stabilizer and 1 bracket. So I think I don't think I am going back to that. And my bow I built for the late season, I went back to a single.
Yeah.
I just did. And I'm probably not going to shoot as long of a bar anymore, because that was a bit of a hindrance at certain points too. I'm probably going to trim back a little bit, maybe go back down to a 12 instead of a 15 or an 18. It's so much more comfortable to maneuver. And I had reasons why I liked the longer stuff, but I think it's a little too much.
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to depend a little bit on the hunt utility and how far my potential shot is.
Yeah.
And I got to really test that offset bracket and see how well I can shoot it at distance, because I'm kind of prejudging it, thinking if I have less weight, it'll be less steady. But I just got to shoot it and see. I mean, if I can shoot it confidently, and it might be something that I'm considering taking a longer shot, it'll be on the bow,
For sure.
And if it's just I know if it's just a tree stand setting or it's a thick area type setting, I'm not going to have to push my shot length. The offset bar is definitely on my bow.
Yeah, it's 60 and in, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's just if you're trying to really reach out and touch. And I should probably preface that by saying there's a possibility I'll shoot longer stuff for like an open country bow where I want to really reach out and touch something. But I'm going to try hard not to. It's anytime you jump in a UTV or in a rig or anything like that, which you're going to do, it is a pain in the ass. It just is, especially when it's relatively long. So maybe there's a shorter, sleeker way to do it. I don't know. I just know how much every time I got in and out of a rig, I was cursing it because I had to take it off. It wouldn't fit in anything. So,
well, it's good to have. These are all good off-season things to work through.
Yeah. Every year you hope to improve a little bit and focus on something that you dislike to try to improve.
Yeah. As I've met more and more people who are good proficient bow hunters, good proficient archers, they're all doing the same thing right now. Like they're all reassessing their gear, reassessing their tags, reassessing what they're going to be using.
A lot of broadhead discussions all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what really worked best. That's the never ending thing.
Yeah.
Always something.
Yeah, our broadhead video was pretty well received. I was curious how well it would be received because that was a totally different style of video. I've never put a video like that on my channel. And I don't intend to put a lot more, but it's just nice to do something different and still have it be well received.
I thought it looked really good. I got your premise once I saw it. Okay, I get it. This looks really good.
Yeah.
And I kind of grasped it when you explained what we were doing, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get what you're doing, and this is going to look like Barbara Walters,
yeah,
right? But it did good. I thought it was a very well done video, and obviously very pleasing to watch.
Yeah,
right,
pretty cool.
Which is kind of your MO.
Made it look fancy.
Because you're a bougie little bitch.
Yeah. Movie magic, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like all that back end stuff that goes into making higher end stuff, whether it's the writing of scripts or the planning of shots, how to make your audience feel more there or feel however you want. I mean, that's really at a filmmaker's heart is what you want when somebody's done watching your stuff is you want them to feel something.
For sure.
Whether that's feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling awkward. I mean, you could take it any direction you want, but yeah, a good piece of whatever it is, call it content, call it film, should have a person should feel something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, and if there's one thing I've taken away from my time and experience with you is I can really appreciate why that should be there, and it reinforces to me I need to keep working that direction to try to make something. It's not just at first when I started doing this stuff, I was more concerned about educating people and just getting them to learn. But if I can do a better job of presenting something that's more enjoyable, more people are going to learn.
Yeah.
Right. More people are going to stay engaged. And it's a greater opportunity to make a bigger change. So I will continue to do the same. I mean, I just bought that fancy little lens so I can get stuff really tight because I keep getting comments on it, which I really wish I could see exactly what you're doing. It's just not that close. And
Well,
I'm
you're
like,
going
all
to
right,
see
well,
now.
you're going to see the shit out of it now.
You're going to be able to see Josh's nose hairs.
I spent like $800 to be able to make you see it a little better. So,
Yeah.
and hopefully that's perceived well.
Particularly in that department, I heard someone say recently to educate is to entertain, or to educate is to entertain. Yeah. Because the more engaged those people are, the more enjoyable it is while they're being educated, the more they're going to come back, or you're going to be able to reach more people or connect with more people or connect with your audience better. So if you're an educator, you should always pursue your public speaking, your storytelling, those are the main ones: public speaking, storytelling.
Sure.
Your entertaining. All of those things are.
It's okay to entertain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can laugh about it a little bit or enjoy it a little bit along the way, you're likely to watch it longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a balance for everything, for every style of content. I've definitely pulled back off of quality in some instances because I think there's also some good that comes into leaning into like the amateur side of YouTube. So it's all good. But knowledge is power. So you're making educated decisions, right?
Yeah.
And you did the first most important thing was you got started. Right?
Yep.
And that's what I told you back in the day is like, just get started. And then as you get started, then you can start making some decisions about how you want to make things.
If I put $1 in a jar every time you said, just make your own channel, just get started. I wonder how much money was in that jar when I started. A lot. You said it a lot, and I just ignored you for a long time.
Yeah.
So thank you for your persistence.
Yeah.
Right. Because it would be a very different thing if I didn't. Right.
Yeah. Well, we're guys. We can be stubborn. I can be guilty of that. And
well, for myself,
sometimes it takes a little convincing.
Well, for myself, it was always an issue of time. Like, it wasn't like I was intimidated or afraid. It was more, how am I going to do this? Like, where am I going to come up with this time from? Right? Because I'm already so freaking busy, but once I started really paying attention to the feedback and the responses of things, I was like, okay, you need to figure out how to make time for this because this is going to make a bigger impact than what you're doing. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to make a bigger impact on people. I feel like maybe at some point we can really enact change in this industry that I love and I've given my life to. And I'm very passionate about. I want it to still be around. And I don't want its version to be around of target archery only. I want people to be able to hunt. I want my kids to be able to hunt. I want their kids to be able to hunt. And I want their kids to be able to hunt. Because there's something innate, true, valuable, and authentic about learning a skill, gaining proficiency with a skill, and going out into the wild and attempting to harvest food. like start to finish. Like I did all these things, and I checked off all these boxes and took all these steps to be good enough to be able to effectively take down an animal that I'm going to eat and I'm going to feed mine with.
Yeah.
There's something so crazy functionally about harvesting an animal and eating it and sustaining your life.
It's the full circle experience. I mean,
it's the same experience of fishing. Like when you get a fish on, you get like uber excited. You really don't know why. Well, because back in your freaking brain, way back here, that means I'm going to live another day. Because we've all grown up in this world and the society where it's pretty easy to survive, right? And back in the excerpt of the back of your mind of your history, it wasn't easy to survive.
Yeah, it's primal.
And you had to do that to live. And the harvesting of that animal meant you're going to live another month, 2 months, 3 months, right? When done correctly, that it just, there's nothing like it. There's just not. And I don't want humanity to lose that.
Yeah.
I want them to still have that. It's really important to me.
Yeah. It's important to me too. My dad was always growing up. He would always whack the first thing he could see because he was just thinking about food.
Yeah.
He couldn't pass up food for the next chunk of food. He was like, if that's a legal buck, that's whacked because that's food. And as I've gotten older, I've totally come to very much more appreciate that is where our food comes from, and that connection to our food is so important. And I can't even just imagine how different it is to sit at a dinner table and never had connection to where your food had came from, whether that was like gardening or harvesting your own cattle or whatever. I mean, that connection to your food is so different than just showing up at the grocery store and going hunting with your credit card.
Well, and I can appreciate so much the way I grew up, which it was a cross between like massive country style living and a little bit of moderate city, but we still grew a lot of our own food and we still hunted for a decent amount of our food. And the experience that it gave me made me want to push it more that direction, less of the city, more of the self-sustaining. But I'm so grateful that I grew up in that because a lot of my friends didn't, and they didn't understand it, get it, or have a connection to it. You should have a connection to whatever you're putting in your body. You really should. It's relatively important, and our society has forgotten that.
Yeah, it's very meaningful. And then there's a whole other side of archery is that if you don't even get into hunting right away, it's like archery is so immersive. When you're shooting an arrow, you really can't be focused on anything else.
No.
And that's what makes it cool. Is it
therapeutic?
It requires 100% of your attention. And there's something very meditative or therapeutic about that. And then you get to watch an arrow fly. And then you get to walk down range and pick it up, which is what I always appreciated about archery versus guns. Like, you can always load another shell in.
Yeah. It doesn't cost you. Every time you pull the trigger, you're not going $1, $2, $3, $4.
Yeah. And I love shooting guns, but
they're fun, but they're expensive to play with.
Yeah.
Especially now, man, the ammo's gotten so expensive.
Yeah, it really has. Anyway, fire's out.
Yeah, buddy.
Any closing thoughts? Stuff you want to add? 2024.
This is going to be an exciting year. Like if you think about it,
It's a very exciting year.
I mean, we're seeing some pretty explosive stuff in our industry. It's an election year and probably one of the most polarizing election years we've ever seen. So it'll be interesting to see where we go this year and how much life changes or doesn't. I'm excited, a little scared, but excited.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. That election year thing is going to sneak up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have helped a lot recently, subscribing and leaving us a review. And I mean, we appreciate that. It really does help. And
super appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we try to. I mean, we show up after work, right, on Wednesdays, you and I, to record and try to give our full attention. And that stuff puts fuel in the fire. It really helps. So.
Yeah, and I mean, the more reviews we get and the more responses we get and the more subscribes we get, the better chance we have of getting seen and viewed and growing this into something bigger and reaching out more people. So I know it's not the funnest thing to do, and it's probably not your ideal thing to do, but if you can just take a moment and give us a positive review on something, it really helps a lot. It really, truly does. So we appreciate everyone we get, and I thank you all for doing it and hope more of you do.
Yep. And let us know in a comment what you want to see. What you want to see. I mean, the slate's clear. We talk about archery, but we're always open to your feedback. So let's wrap this podcast. Appreciate you guys.
Later.